Good morning, Allah, and all the diaspora. Come to share with you a few words from our scriptures. Remember that we were studying for some time from the book of Zechariah, and there we were made acquainted with the 70-year captivity that Jeremiah spoke about, that even Daniel spoke about, and Zechariah himself mentions it. And I think there are other prophets that mention the 70 years of captivity in Babylon, under Babylon. And thus, when the 70-year captivity came to a close, the house of Yahweh, Judah, was set free. Now you remember that in the book of Daniel, that highlights some of the circumstances that face the house of Yahweh in Babylonian captivity under Nebuchadnezzar. Remember the three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and that bad Negro? They faced the furnace, the fiery furnace and the flames. Remember that? That was during the 70-year captivity in Babylon that the prophet Jeremiah spoke about. I think it's, where is it? Of course, in Daniel chapter 9, makes mention of was it Daniel chapter 9 and verse 2, mentions Jeremiah's prophecy. That's in Jeremiah, what chapter? Well, I'm not going to go to look for it right now, but suffice it to say that Daniel mentions it in chapter 9 of his book, Daniel 9, verse 2. He mentions that because of Jeremiah's book, he understood concerning the captivity in Babylon, where he was at that time with his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And of course, in the description of Daniel's prophecy, you have mention of Greece and Persia and so forth. I want to concentrate on the Grecian Empire that came up kind of like from a backdrop. You had the bad Nebuchadnezzar who threw the boys in the fiery furnace. All this happened in the 70-year captivity. And then you had you have Darius or Darius that had the what do you call it? The lion's den situation. Remember that? So the fiery furnace under Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, the lion's den, and so forth. These different super faith experiences that happened to Yasha Allah in captivity. And of course, then came up Alexander and Greece. Of course, Alexander, his father was well, what's the name of his father again? I know it so well. Philip of Macedon or Macedonia. And so Alexander comes out of Philip, and began the Grecian conquest. This is Esau now. This is Esau coming out of his hiding since the time of, I don't remember exactly, it was either King David himself or Solomon. During their times when Edom rebelled. If you check the scriptures, you'll find that Edom rebelled against Israel and broke free and began to do their own thing. Came back now as the Grecians, Philip of Macedonia, Alexander the Greek, who they call Alexander the Great. And you find in, according to the book of Daniel here, in maybe I should say proximity to the book of Zechariah, because they were in captivity spanning approximately the same period. You find that the Greeks or the Grecians kind of took a backdoor entrance into history. All right? Coming up on the backside of the fiery furnace and the lion's den experiences of Yasha Allah. And so not too long after that, you had in the historical carriage of the records, Philip of Macedonia, whose son Alexander took over after him and carried Greece, the Greeks, to a height of power. This is Esau now, the same Esau that was shown in the book of Genesis, chapter 23. Esau, who sold his birthright. And later on, I suppose Esau had a change of mind. My real, well, not my real, I suspect when I examine the records, when I scrutinize the records more closely of Edom's behavior, I am led to the conclusion, or what seems to be a possible and plausible way, matter of Esau's processing of the covenant situation is that you remember that Esau was a hunter, and he did apparently quite a bit of hunting. And I suspect that during his hunting excursions, that Esau would go into the woods, and there he would meet Gadriel, Satan, and the demons in his hunting excursions, and get make connection with them. This is my view of why and how Edom came to refuse the birthright. I am suggesting that in his hunting experiences, Esau was meeting up with Satan and getting information that led him to say no to the birthright offer of the Most High and to take another view of gaining power. And so to counteract what was being offered in the birthright offering of the Most High unto him. So that when he was put aside, in fact, he actually, when you look in Bereshit 26 and 27, we see that Esau actually represented himself as not mindful of the birthright offering. Said, you know, when he was hungry, coming in from the hunt, from the catch, I might say, in his hunger, he said, I'm near to die, and you know this birthright, I don't care for it. What can it do for me if I might die now of my hunger? And he threw it away. I am suggesting that it's possible, very possible, that in his hunting expedition, he was meeting up with Gadriel, with Satan, the demons, who were making offers to him that led him to think light of the birthright. And matter of fact, to think of the birthright blessing as a means of achieving authority and power. The offerings that Satan would have made to him gave him ideas that seem attractive as a means of him obtaining the power that he would see or believe that would catapult him into prominence and rulership over Yaakov, or beyond this birthright situation that was in the covenant promises. I think in his hunting expeditions, he was meeting up with the demons and getting ideas as to how he could formulate a kingdom other than through the birthright offerings of the Most High. But when he was faced with the fact that the birthright was, handed over unto Yaakov because he had turned it down, he then began to cry about losing the birthright, that he gave up, that he said it didn't matter to him. It was of no account in his view. Now he turns around and begins to cry for the birthright that he tossed away, that in his view was of no account to him. And I think this was a scam that Esau was playing in his craftiness, that since he would have been offered by Satan a way to achieve greatness other than by the offering of the birthright that the Most High offered to him, he now comes back to put in a plea that he should still get what he despised and did not want. And hence, he determined in himself that having received offer from Satan, this is the view I'm putting forward to you now, the possibility that having received this offer during his hunting escapades, he got this view that he could achieve the greatness that may be sufficient for him. Now he comes to contest, make a contest for the birthright that he threw away. This is the cunning of Esau that I see. And making this request for, birthright still after he gave it up. Our forefather Yitzhak handed him a portion of the blessing that he threw away. And so I think this would give us an answer, possibly, a way of viewing the situation as to Esau's behavior, that having thrown away the birthright, now comes to make a contest for it, even though it's out of his hands, because he gave it up. But now he wants to fight for it because he wants to have the control that is offered in the birthright blessing. And possibly the other offerings that he would have gotten from the evil one during his hunting episodes. This is how I view it. This is one way I'm viewing it. And so if he had another way of achieving the greatness that he saw, not Esau, but Esau saw that was possible for him to achieve, then it was no real concern as such for him to wait for the inheritance that the Most High was offering. If you get my drift. In his cunning, in the cunning mindset of Esau, he would have received offers other than what Most High had put into the birthright plan. So then the offering of the birthright to Yaakov now, or Yaakov would get in the way of that birthright offering that he denied, he didn't want it, but he would get in the way and cause confusion and strife and war over it to prevent Yaakov from getting this blessing or this birthright. Whereas the birthright was specifically about bringing forth the principal offering of the Mashiach that would take away the sin of the world. And so from there, from the time of knowing that the true birthright was offered, given to Jacob, he based his strategy around the determination to prevent, to stop, to impede, destroy by any means necessary, according to Malcolm X, our teacher, by many means necessary to disrupt and destroy the birthright offering that was the means, that was to be the means of eradicating the sin problem. This is what I see about Esau. So from that time, knowing that the birthright was now out of his hand, he continued to make contests for it. To cause disruption and, if possible, the destruction of the Mashiach coming forth to wash away the sin of the world. This is the great sin of Edom that he must receive his great punishment for. Well, of course, on the backdrop of that, with, I'm speaking in terms of where we are now, in relation to the fact that Esau has gone off and, through his more or less familiar relationship with Jacob and with the forefathers, Yitzhak and Abraham, those ones, having veered off from the community as such, from the regular community, because when you start to look through Bereshith, you see how he conducted his personal relationship with women and so forth. He didn't want to conduct relationship in terms of being faithful to the Torah, and conducting his personal relationship in a manner that was acceptable to his fathers. He wanted his own way. So he has been a breaker of Torah from that time. But by the time he gets up to the period of when Yasha'Allah forms the nation of the 12 tribes, and set up in Jerusalem or in Canaan, and you find David, specifically ruling over Edom. And I think up to the time of Solomon, if I'm wrong, maybe you can correct me, but up to that time, Edom was subdued under Yasha'Allah, who will now become the 12 tribes and in their land. And during the reign of Solomon, I believe, Edom broke away from being, ruled over by Yasha'Allah. of the 12 tribes. And from then, he breaks free to do his own thing. And eventually, almost vanishes out of sight unless you follow him through the scriptures and see where he made, contact with different ones, different individuals, different leaders, kings, until the time he branches out into the kingdom of Greece that we see portrayed in the book of Daniel and now in the book of Zechariah, where we have been studying for some time. And there in the kingdom of Greece, he splits, Edom, I'm speaking of now. In the kingdom of Greece, Edom, upon the death of Alexander, his 4 generals, remember the 4 generals that split up the kingdom, took to themselves rulership in different matters or in different ways. And among their 4 rulers, at least one of them, Ptolemy, went into Egypt, Mizraim, and learned the ways of Mizraim and learned the protocol of enslavement from Mizraim. And in the Grecian conquest of those areas near to him, they also conquered Babylon, right? And so there you have it. Edom had the privilege of learning the ways of worship, let's say, of these 2 great kingdoms or nations, Mizraim, Egypt, and Babylon. And so when the Ptolemies finished their learning and experiences with, I think, Alexandria and whatever other parts of Mizraim that they were concerned with to get the knowledge and learning of Mizraim, once they had it, and having made contact with the culture of Mizraim, they absorbed all that knowledge and the knowledge of slavery. They came from there. And with the knowledge of Babylon, the Babylonian Empire, they took all of these knowledge and formed the protocol for their lordship, if I may use that word, over the house of Judah, Yehoiada. So this is why we are shown in Revelation chapter 11 the picture of the house of Yehoiada, Judah, and for further reference, and Ephraim, both being combated, destroyed by Esau When he went over to the South Americas, he destroyed the tribes over there, out in the South America. And then when the house of Judah, Yahweh, was brought into these parts, in this new world, they call it, Esau was the the individual, or the captive nation, or the nation that would supply the real destruction, supply the engines and the ingenuity of destruction to the house of Judah, having learned Mitzrayim and Babylon. And so this is why we have the reference in Revelation chapter 11 of, those two witnesses being under heavy thought, consideration, if you will, being combated by Esau. This is where Esau got to. And so we are in that period of time, even after the birthright, the principal offering of the birthright has been realized, and the Mashiach has done or gone through the experience of laying down his life for the world, for Yasha Allah in principle, 12 tribes. These were the ones upon whom Esau put his undivided attention. No matter who or whomever he might have been paying attention to conquer, to divide and destroy, the prize that he was after was the prize of the birthright blessing that he thought, that he intended to get rid of completely. That was his intention. From the time he spun around, having refused the birthright. But as I suggested, that he could have, might have, would have gotten instruction from Gabriel to oppose this birthright blessing with a cunning plea, if you will, for on his own behalf that he should have some part of the birthright, as our forefather Yitzchak did give to him a portion even of what he didn't want. He threw away. But I believe this was his way of edging himself into the picture to try and have lawful claim to oppose the principal birthright offering that was the Mashiach. So all through his ins and out of life and history, his main object was destroy the birthright offering, the Mashiach. This was his main concern. So what you see him doing now, hiding himself in, appearing to be invisible and unknown. I mean, how could you be the ruler of a kingdom and be unknown? You're ruling everything and you're unknown? How is that possible? But this is the trickery of Esau. And so we've shown here at Howling Benjamin, we've shown some pictorials that shows Esau. We see Esau in religion, as they call it, in churchianity, as the Catholic Church, as Esau. The Pope, Esau. I mean, you look in basically through a cross section of activity in different areas. For instance, in music, you find Esau, as mostly what they call those orchestral entities producing orchestral music. I forget the word you call them. I think they call them some kind of music masters. They were Esau in pop music today. Now you have the Beatles, the Monkees, and so many other bands that were Esau. They know how to find, but he hid himself away. I mean, as though he's invisible. You have church like, Oral Roberts and his people, Jimmy Swaggart and all of those. A plethora of churchianity at Esau, the Catholic Church being the number one. And in my own personal case, the Adventists, all these Esau, who is pretending to be hidden, unknown, a hidden hand ruling, in plain sight. All these, musicians that Esau. All right. How is it that we could have this thinking of Esau is hidden, nobody knows who he is. And there he is in plain sight. You talk about Trinity Broadcasting, Esau, and many others. Should I name some more? Some that you really cannot deny that you know? In America, in specifics, many of them, church leaders, Esau, plain sight. But now, the other interesting feature that comes up in the midst of Edom is what happened in the 400 years enslavement process of Edom over the 12 tribes. Or, in particular, from this point of view, of the house of Judah. You know of the enslavement of tribes in the South America and the destruction Edom created among them. The house of Judah, Yehoiada, was his most concern, because this was the leadership, and still is the leadership of the nation. So then, his eyes were set on having destroyed the Mashiach in the height of the Roman Empire under Pilate and Herod, with the help of Levi. This is the other hidden hand. The other hidden hand of the beast system, Levi, coming up under there, from the underground, more or less, and showing up in the midst to take over 400 years of enslavement. Long after Esau was successful in carrying out the crucifixion of the principal offering of the birthright that he did not want. But he got Levi to come in with him to destroy the Mashiach. And now today as I'm speaking with you, they are connected together. For a final assault on the house of Judah and Ephraim. This is where we are. And so while I mention to you this obvious knowledge of who Edom is, Edom says he is hidden. He's not known. He's not here. He's like the children playing hide and seek. He got his butt out, but he's still hiding. We're looking at him every day, seeing him in all the music works going on, all the bands that he's playing it, and displaying himself, all these different ventures that he's involved with, but yet he's still he's hidden. Nobody knows who he is. And you have Levi now in the mix, all under the conduct, the leadership of Satan, the one who left the Shamayim in the furious departure from connection with the Most High. And so he is the one overseeing all the destruction that Edom has done on the earth. And here now, the destruction that Levi has done and intends to do. I want to step aside from this portrayal of Edom and Levi to mention an aside matter. We look at Edom's intention to hide himself and to double back and steal someone else's identity, particularly in Yasha'Allah and among the 12 tribes, to steal identity out of our people, to say as him. For instance, he took what we call the white Jesus and put that up as a savior for us. Well, no, he put that up as the Messiah that was crucified by him in Jerusalem, Palestine, 2,000 years ago. This is what Esau do. This is what he does. He puts that white, I don't want to call it no more ill names right now. He put that white picture up and said that's the Messiah. The Messiah who he killed and create the Nicene Creed to show his omnipotent power over the 12 tribes by destroying their Messiah, the birthright blessing that he refused. But he puts this image of himself up to say that this Messiah is himself. While he takes the credit for having destroyed him at Calvary during the crucifixion, and the Pilate and Herod, with the complicity of the Levites. Got that. But so we get back to that later on. I want to share this little view again of Esau. Esau hiding in plain sight. So went, and as he has taken onto himself the identity of the Mashiach and called himself us, the one who done all the damage to destroy this covenant relationship with the Most High. In his mind, he destroys it and presents the principles of the covenant as as matters that are concerning him. I mean, that he's the one that is portrayed as the principal offering of the covenant. So I only want to show you how this is extended. You look at some religious programming, for instance, portrayal of the Apostle Shaul, we call Paul. And then look at how Esau portrays him as a Edomite. These are the people that Esau was so, let me use one of their words, so overjoyed to destroy. But now he put the Apostle Shaul as himself. Esau and England also took our brother, our forefather, if you will, Shakespeare, and put his picture up to represent Shakespeare. Well, some people may want to argue with that, but if Esau have the gumption to put a white picture up as the Mashiach of Yasha'Allah, whom he destroyed under Pilate and Herod, it is far-fetched to think that he would represent the Apostle Shaul as a so-called white man and represent Shakespeare. Oh. Anyway, I only put those ideas forward, to help Yasha'Allah to wake up who are sleeping on Esau, knowing who he is and his character, what he does, as the book of Yochanan, chapter 10, I believe. Let me see if I can find it. I think you know the verse that I'm looking for. Yochanan chapter 10. I'm looking for the verse of scripture that says, maybe you can help me with this. Oh, I got it. Yochanan 10 and 10, verse 10 says, "The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly." So look at the characteristic of the chief over Edom and Levi, Satan. The Mashiach says that he comes that his people might have life and have more abundantly. But what does Satan do? Satan comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Three basic characteristics. Now he can use what he does use, either one of the three or in combination to get his work done. So this is what you find Esau doing along with Levi. And they did these works of Satan as national entities that we did not see as a people. We didn't recognize the unity of action that was going on, that it was Satan himself who fell from the Shamayim into the earth, corrupted our forefathers, and got into the human race, the human family, through the opening of the eye of the woman, and of course her husband after her. That's how they got into our bodies and have been destroyed us ever since. All right? So this is how Satan has become what is termed as the God of this world, because he slipped in through the open eyes, the eyes that were left unprotected by the disobedience of the first couple. So they were able to slip in and take a hold of the rulership of the earth, thereby. And as we face the sealing time, I want you to consider, you are hereby asked to consider, in the presence of the Ruach, to consider the fact that the opening of the eyes of our first parents was the vehicle whereby Satan and his demons got into the human family to destroy it. And when our forefathers made the decision to let Satan in, the Ruach left. I am sure that I'm not the first to say this to you in the way I'm saying it to you. And what you would have heard before can now tie into what I'm sharing with you. That when the first couple sinned, Ruach left. So the covering that he was to them was removed. Satan and the demons were able to come in. We are in the sealing time now, where the Mashiach is calling us to recognize that situation. And in Shavuot, which was the time of the descent of the Ruach in the days of the apostles, we are now in the end of time, as the scripture says, when everything has to be consummated and everything has to be finally secured and made fit to stand, to withstand the catastrophic destruction of the earth and the atmospheres around us. around us as we are in this earth and in the Shamayim above us, like it was in the day of Noah, as the scriptures say. So also the time of the coming of the Son of Man. There's going to be some upheaval, some breaking apart in nature to accommodate the fact of the destruction of the relationship of the Most High that was once between him and Satan, Gadriel, and all the fallen ones, and the breakup of relationship of the Most High with humanity that came through Hawa and Adam. Breaking relationship, all these things have brought a strain upon the relationship of what would be called sentient beings and humanity with the Most High. All the relationships with the Most High have been strained and broken. And the Torah, as the scripture says, this Torah is slack. Nobody's giving attention to it. The Most High got to bring it back, bring everything together. And this is on the shoulders of the Mashiach, the one born to be king in Yasha'Allah. In Isaiah chapter 7, I believe it is, whose name shall be called Emmanuel, Hamashiach. But so, I think we share, or we say amongst each other that we are in growing pains and so on and so forth to describe the turmoil that's going on in our midst because of that beginning of breaking relationship with the Most High and with Torah from Satan, Gadriel, and the Shamayim that extended to us. And now, in the end of the world, in the consummation of all things, Mashiach is calling us to receive the sealing of the Ruach, to seal our relationship with him and put the covering of the Ruach back in place that was removed when our first mother and Adam sinned. That covering was removed. He's now restoring it. That's what the sealing time is all about. So until next time, when we bring you some more understanding, we want to go in and show you why Levi done what he has done. And that should provide you some further strength and knowing where we are, what time it is, and what are the issues that we have to stand up for, Yasha'Allah, in these times. The Most High bless you, keep you. It's my prayer. Shalom.